Namato Ratana Tayasa. May I pay homage to Triple Gem, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. My respect goes to my parents and my teachers. Hello, good evening. So today is Sunday, the 6th of September 2020, and this is Achan Sujan from Varapunya Meditation Center, Aberdeen, Scotland. So, as usual, tonight I'm here with you all, and thank you everyone for listening this Facebook Dhamma talk. Hi, good evening Yvonne, good evening Margaret, and good evening everyone, those who joined today. I hope you all having a wonderful weekend, enjoying this Sunday. And today at the center as well, Venerable monks for the first time after many months went to the house blessings in the city. It was quite interesting. Initially, in the past, when monks are invited, there would be around 10 to 20 people for the ceremony, but this time, due to the COVID-19, the organizer has to minimize the number of attendants. So it was quite interesting. It's like a family gathering and having a monks for the special blessings and in the name of the departed ones. So it's COVID-19. At the center, again, as I said previously, that we're going to have this special Dhamma talk on this Saturday, coming Saturday, at 2 o'clock from the Thailand, and meanwhile we'll have a annual Kathina Robe ceremony on the 4th of October, and which is going to be at the center here, and which again in line with the government's guidance, we are working on that, how to organize and how to keep the people in separation or having a social distance. And as we know that it's not easy to put the herds of the cat in the same place, or the training the herds of the cats. We are like we are all humans, like a herd of the cats. It's very difficult to tame and train. Yeah? But anyway, so 4th of October we are going to have this annual Kathina Robe offering ceremony at the center, and if you intend to come and join, please do let us know that you are coming. So this is the information. And over this last few days, I have been speaking on the right effort, which is the 5th factors of the Eightfold Noble Path. And there's been a couple of nights that I was explaining what the third strata of this Eightfold Noble Path, and within that first factor of this third strata, this concentration, is the right effort. And in the right effort, we know that there are 4 different ways to deal with the effort, and then that we have to apply for the spiritual or any development. And that's a prevention, abandon, development, and maintain. And I was explaining about the prevention for the couple of I think 2 nights already. And the reason behind that, we need to prevent ourselves. Hello Gautam, hello Jagat Singh, thank you for joining. The reason that we need to be very conscious and mindful of the prevention, that it is the active, and we can, if we are mindful, then we will be able to detect it, know it, and the very moment we can prevent from growing too much. It's like a mind, or it's like a tree. When a big tree and there is another plant that just goes spining the tree, relying on the tree, it just goes up, and once it got in a stage that will kill the tree. So our mind is like that too. When our mind is not trained, it simply engages into the unwholesome thoughts and unwholesome activities, or the so-called bad activities. And initially we may think that's very entertaining and excitement, but gradually it will take control over you. It's like someone who's taking drugs. Initially, when they take drugs, it feels good, ecstasy, and it's lovely, and gradually the drug will take control over the entire life. And our mind is like that too. When mind is not trained, and then all the unwholesome thoughts or unwholesome qualities just creeps in, and then it will take control over this mind, and that will kill the mind itself. And it's become more darker. And similarly, on the opposite side, if the mind is purified, if the mind is tamed properly, then it won't. The mind become brighter and shiny and clearer. And with that, we can see the clarity of the nature and of the life, and ability to distinguish what is good and what is not good. And with that, our mind becomes so in line with wholesome thoughts and wholesome mental state, which will bring only happiness and a peace for ourselves in this life and then hereafter. So that's why the prevention was so important. And now prevention is basically things that is arising and not letting it arise. And the second factors of this right effort is called abandon, or abandoning it. It's like we have when we moved into this new property, along the edges we had lots of trees wildly grown up, and those trees we cut them down, but every year it sprouts out again and again, and this sprouting coming back again and again. So we have to go back and just take these newly sprouts out from this main root. So as long as the root is still there, this new sprouting will continue every summer. And that's similar with the concept of abandoning, that there are so many defilements that is saved in our minds, possibly from previous lives, subconsciously saved things. And this normally what happens is when our mind settled at that moment, these will pops in, and this comes out, and then gradually, if we are not mindful of it, then it will just take control over us. So in that case, whatever unwholesome mental states or whatever unwholesome behaviors that we already have or possessed, needs to be realized and abandon it one after another. And that is the main theme of the second factors of the right effort. Now, I would like to read out from what the Buddha said about the right effort on this abandoning. It says, what is the effort to be abandoned? Or is also known as a pahana, or the abandoning. Herein a monk puts forth his will to abandon the evil, unwholesome thoughts that have already arisen. He strives, develops the energy, and strengthens his mind. So there are 3 words used by the Buddha. He strives. So he diligently strives to abandon those unwholesome states of the mind and develop the energy, the right energy to take it out, uprooting it from our minds and heart, or is known as from the subconsciousness. And with that, you're strengthening the mind that, okay, I am going to abandon these unwholesome state of the mind. And to do that, there are 2 ways. That the one is to do not admit to the sense desire that has arisen, but abandon and discards and repels it. And the second one is the hindrances that hinders our practice or understanding. We basically, again, what we do is to abandon those hindrances and discards. Once the Buddha was, and this is again, the Buddha spoke on one of the suttas, discourses during the time when the Buddha was staying in the Savatthi Jeta's grove, Anathapindika's park. And the sutta is about vitaka sandharana, which means the removal of distractions. And here, removal of distractions is ways to abandon what is unwholesome and what makes a mind clouded. And here in this discourse, the Buddha simply spoke to the venerable monk, saying that there are 5 ways to distract our thoughts. And that thought, we can, sometimes the thought comes and take over, and the thoughts itself will become in charge of it. So as a result, these are 5 ways to distract, or 5 ways to overcome the distracted thought that the Buddha said. Was so interesting that one should be mindful of it. And this can be used in our practice as a practice of a meditation. And in a meditation, we obviously know that how many distractions comes or distracts our mind from paying attention to the primary object. And in those cases, these are the 5 very, very basics but profound guidance for a good practitioner that teaches us to do to overcome the distractions. And the number 1, the Buddha said that whenever there is unwholesome thoughts arises, or evil thoughts are there in you, full of lust, greed, and hatred, these emotions are there. In that moment, rather than thinking of the negative thoughts, we should think of the positive, replacing positive thoughts in it. And with that thinking, of the mind pattern changes from negative to positive. Like, say, an essential pleasure, let's say the sexual pleasure comes, wanting to consume. At that moment, thinking that how this is repulsive and how it is not worthy. So thinking of something that's against with that. And that's the first way to overcome or distract our thoughts, our mind. And that's the first way to abandon any unwholesome thoughts. And sometimes you may be able to overcome it by just thinking new thoughts into the positive thoughts, from the negative to positive thoughts. And then I like the simile used. Rather than complaining about the rubbish, turn it into compost. So every rubbish can be turned into a compost. And that's every thought. The very moment when there's thoughts are arising, at that moment, rather than taking it as rubbish, we take it as a good friend. So opposite of it, and with that we will be able to overcome that thought. And the second one is that whenever there is evil thoughts or unwholesome thoughts arises, or which already embedded inside us, it's called a latent, based on a latent defilements, and it encourages us to react in a way to speak or to physically perform any actions. At that time, simply bringing mind back to investigating and thinking the consequences of that act, that how shameful that is and how shameful may it brings. Not only that, but also thinking further on that how great moral dread is, morally how unlawful or unwelcome. So that's why this ahiri and otapa is something, the principle, even the Buddha said that it's called a deva dhamma. A Buddha used the word, this hiri and otapa, or the shame and the moral dread. These two, the qualities. If a person has got these qualities, then they are like a deva. They will not perform any unwholesome things, any unwholesome deeds. It doesn't matter how small that is. One will be completely free from that. That's why it's called as Deva Dhamma, and they are like a devatas. Basically, sometimes people think that no one is watching, no one sees it, no one knows what I have done wrong or a bad action. And at that time, one who hasn't got that sense of awareness or a thought of the same and a moral dread, one can do everything. There is nothing that he or she can't do. So that's why this hiri and otapa, or the shame and a moral dread, is a very firm, is a very effective and important principle that every one of us should possess. If every one of us possess or having this principle of a shame and a dread, and not committing any actions in front of and behind, and whole community and the society become such a wonderful place to stay, such a wonderful place to live. Because not only the consequences of action that we have to be responsible or add to our action, but also thinking of the shame and a moral dread, the shame that may brought to his family, her family, or the teachers or the centers, and like that. And having thought of that, one will not commit any, doesn't matter how big or small that offense is. So that's why the second factor in abandoning is that thinking of the consequences, and as well as how shameful that may become. And with that, we will be able to abandon any unwholesome state of the mind that we may have it inside us, which was triggered by the external stimuli. And the third one is intentionally diverting our attention from that thoughts to something else. And here again, hate and anger and jealousy, ill will, these are the thoughts already embedded in us, and probably it's been with us for many, many years or many lives, accumulation of it. And then very moment when something happens, it triggers, at that moment, then we become very angry. So in those situations, if we are mindful enough, then the way to abandon those things is basically diverting our attention. And here, diverting your attention from that particular thought to something else. I'll just close your eyes. And so this is this again, basically even the practice of a meditation that we are practicing, you are asked to pay attention to on the breath. And the breath itself is deliberately chosen to distract any activities or mental state that we are thinking of. And that similarly, whenever evil thoughts or unwholesome thoughts are popping out from our consciousness, that moment, we simply divert our attention from that to something good, or think of something better. And that better and a good, again, not just for us individuals, good and a better, but again for the others as well as both. And this is the third factor that one has to understand, how to abandon the things that is unwholesome. And the fourth one, which is quite interesting, I normally use it as well, it's called face-to-face. It's like a confrontation with the Mara, confrontation with all the evil thoughts, evil or unwholesome mental states when it arises under the influence of hindrances and unaware or unmindful of our own emotions and feelings. That moment, rather than just letting it be, letting go, or rather than just thinking of against with it, or just replacing with the positive thoughts, and sometimes it does work and other time it may not be working. In those cases, what you have to do is to face, watching it face to face, or just like a confronting face to face. And this reminds me that in physics, metaphysics, in the science, there had been I was watching one time about this school. I forgot the real name for this program. It's about the atom and finding this activities of it. And it says that if there is something which is watching the activities of these atoms, then it behaves differently, whereas if you take it out, then it behaves differently too. When there is someone who is watching every one of us act differently, and when there is no one, we act differently. That's why when we come to face with this the unwholesome state of the mind, what happens is that initially it may be difficult, but over the period of a time you will be able to face with any unwholesome thoughts. Okay, I am having this. Now I am not going to let you take over or take control over me. Let's see how far you can go. So firmly establishing yourself on it. And with that, what happens is the unwholesome thoughts gradually fades away. And that's the fourth one, confront. And here confrontation is not just like face-to-face confrontating, but also scrutinizing and investigating of that Mara itself, or that unwholesome thought itself, that whether how grave that can be, or how great effort or the result of it that one has to receive. So it's a wise investigation needed to apply here as well. And the last one, again, in any means that you have tried to abandon those evil thoughts or evil unwholesome state of the mind, or any unwholesome things, and yet still sprouting in those cases, deliberately suppressing it. It's like a giant wrestler is pressing on the floor to someone who is a weaker wrestler, unable to move at all, like that. So with our concentration meditation, we will be able to suppress it so much. So that's the fifth way to overcome or abandoning any unwholesome thought, is to suppress it. Well, that's a practice of a samatha meditation, is basically we're suppressing all the distractions, or all other mental states. And that separation will help us as long as we are able to suppress it. But the very moment when we come out from meditation, these will come back again. It's like a grass. If you put a stone on for a couple of days, the grass will die away. But as soon as you take the stone out, in a few days later, the whole grass again comes to the green. That's same with our mindset too. But however, this is another way that one can overcome or abandon the evil thoughts. So this is the second factors within the right effort that one has to be mindful of, and ways to abandon any evil or unwholesome mental state that may have come into being. And mostly these these unwholesome evil thoughts are basically coming from the subconsciously saved, and it will come gradually, one after another. Particularly if you've been meditating, you will be able to notice that a lot. And these are the 5 ways to deal with it and abandoning those thoughts. So I offer this as a tonight's reflection, and thank you everyone for joining. And with this, may you all be well and happy. Stay safe, take care, and may the Buddha Dhamma Sangha bless you until the attainment of Nibbana. In a few moments' time, we will have a chanting and a guided meditation. You are most welcome to join with us. Until then, good night and thank you.